One of the greatest contributions from Vedic culture is the script and language of Sanskrit.
Sanskritam nama Daivi Vak. Sanskrit is a divine speech. Sanskritam Vak. Vak is feminine, Sanskritam neuter. If Sanskrita could be used as Sanskrita, then Sanskrita nama Daivi Vak. This should have been the construction, But instead of that, Sanskritam Vak, with two words in two different genders. So therefore, one definitely has a gender which is fixed, and that is Sanskritam. So Sanskritam is neuter, and here in Yadi Vacham Pradasyami Dvijatireva Sanskritam Vacham, Sanskritam is used as an adjective to the word Vacham. It could mean the refined speech. This is for one. Another point, which needs to be emphasized here is that for almost 1,000 years, Sanskrit was known by the name Bhasha only, which not many people emphasize.
Sanskrit is the language of ancient India and of Vedic philosophy and its civilization. It is a perfect language, which also invokes the spiritual vibration of which it speaks. It is a refined language. But also most self-protective in the way it manages to maintain the original meaning that it presents, as long as a person properly understands Sanskrit grammar and syntax. In other words, when translated according to the rules of the Sanskrit language, you cannot take the interpretation far outside its first-hand intention without giving up all of the rules of Sanskrit.
There's no doubt that the Sanskrit language has changed over time. The most ancient strata of literature, the Vedas, Samhitas, and the Upanishads, and so forth, it's clearly using a much more technical and rigorous form of Sanskrit than, say, later authors of some of the Puranas were using. They were more precise in, say, whether they're using an active or a middle form of a verb than were later authors. So there's really no doubt, if you spend time reading Sanskrit from different periods, that the language does in fact change, has changed, and to a certain extent it's regional. And then once you start reading individual authors, certainly they have their own way of expressing themselves. They're more inclined to particular terms and style of writing than other people.
What we call Sanskrit today has a long history. It's an Indo-European language, that is, it's got connections, it's got cognate cousins, I should say, with many languages in Europe. For instance, take the word Agni, fire. The root is GN there, and we find it in the English word ignite, fire, ignition. Jnana, coming through in ignorance, lack of knowledge, or knowledge itself. And so Sanskrit has been or is an Indo-European language, but what we call Sanskrit today is a certain form of epic Puranic Sanskrit, which in a sense is almost easily understandable. But the early language, the time of the Vedas, some people make a distinction and call it Vedic rather than Sanskrit, because it's very different in structure and in form than in later Sanskrit that we are used to from the epics and the Puranas.